This new year, why not let Audible expand your life by listening? Explore over 1 million audiobooks, podcasts, and exclusive Audible originals that'll inspire and motivate you. Tap into your well-being with advice and insight from leading professionals and experts on better health, relationships, career, finance, investing, and more. Maybe you want to kick a bad habit or start a good one. If you're interested in learning how to master your emotions and hearing scientifically backed advice for using your emotions as a tool, may I suggest Shift by psychologist and bestseller author Dr. Ethan Cross? Trust me, listening on Audible can help you reach the goals you set for yourself. Start listening today when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
Let's chat. It's hard. You want to talk? I know, that's disappointing. Sit back. Let's work this out. How's it going? What are we doing here? Where are you going? Hey there. Wow. It's not always easy. It's amazing if you think about it. Let's think about this. Strange. I have some thoughts about that. Life is hard. Trauma bonded.
So, courtesy of my sister Sarah on Midas Touch podcast from March 13th, they have an interview with messaging guru Anat Shenker Azario. She is brilliant, trust me. And she kind of breaks down what's happening in the messaging from MAGA and the broligarch enablers. I've heard broligarch, but the way she said it was cute. One, she's saying call it what it is. It's a regime. It's not our government. And it's a regime of the bullies by the billionaires. Their messaging is all rooted in othering and will make us turn on each other while they steal our money and line their own pockets. And to counter the odious red MAGA hat, you own a barn, paint the side of it. Paint Free America from hate, division, and fear that they're selling. This is all what we've been talking about the last 2 weeks. Show, don't tell. Wear a sign, wear a message, and go local. Go where you live. Be fabulous. Show the world that we are the happy ones. We live for family and friends and community and in actual freedom. Be like us and not like MAGA who want to steal your joy and put you in a prison. And if you want to check out a band who is fighting with you and can provide the fight songs, check out the Dropkick Murphys. And I know I just said a lot of things, but that's kind of like the highlights from the interview. It's only like a 25-minute interview. Really recommend listening to it. It's quite inspiring, and she's a fucking badass. And don't forget to download 5calls.org app, call your representatives, and continue to resist every damn day, right, T?
That's right.
And welcome to Trauma Bonded. I'm Elly Westberg here with Therese Garcia.
Hello.
And today we're discussing episode 354 of the podcast, This Is Actually Happening. What if your son was killed by a distracted driver? It's a tough one. The summary, and this is again from This Is Actually Happening summary that I may or may not have written. A turbulent father-son relationship shatters completely when the son is killed by a distracted driver, and the father is left to confront his own profound guilt in the man who caused his son's needless death. And episode is the fourth in our 5-part series, A World Beyond Revenge, featuring 5 powerful stories of people on both sides of tragic incidents of unimaginable harm, who found healing through the groundbreaking process of restorative justice. And full disclosure, I work for This Is Actually Happening, and T does not, but she's still cool, and she comes in fresh, and this show, Trauma/Bonded, is for the listeners, a space where we can talk about each episode, digest it, and reflect on it with empathy and also a bit of levity. That's Trauma Bonded. T, what stuck out to you is the heart of Andy's story.
Thank you, Elly. I went with one word for this heart today, and I went with the word making.
I love that part of the episode when he talked about how the school was making his son.
Yeah, that word particularly. I thought that was really, really great. So Andy speaks of the making of Joe, right? Those moments when Joe's at school, when he's in that environment where he's accepted and he thrives. when they finally give him the opportunity to become Joe, become himself. And we can talk a little bit more about that, but I thought that was really amazing. And then it ends up being through the tragedy and with the help of restorative justice that the story is also about the making of Andy. Ultimately, I think through this story and through the series, the word making connects a lot with the restorative justice and the power of transformation in general, like making peace from pain or meaning from loss and a future from forgiveness.
Yeah.
So I thought that's why I thought making was a powerful word for the heart for the story.
Yes, that's good.
Thank you, Elly.
My heart of the story wasn't as profound, but it's pretty simple. Don't text and drive.
Yeah, no, I think that's it.
How about this? Don't even look at your phone when you drive. If you need it for directions, fine. Have it up on your dash, have it talking to you, but there's no reason your eyes should ever go to your phone ever.
Not worth it at all.
Not worth it at all.
Simple but powerful.
Yes. Okay, so, Andy starts out talking about sort of how his dad was a bully, and he has these anecdotes of his father hitting him for no reason. Why do you think it was important to include these elements of his backstory?
Well, it's definitely a big difference in his own experience as a father.
Yeah, you think it's sort of telling, like, "This is my experience," and I mean, he doesn't directly say this, but I guess we're supposed to take from it that this was the way he was raised, and he kind of made this concerted effort to not raise his own children that way.
I mean, talk about loving unconditionally,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think that was the reason they were included as well. He gets his girlfriend pregnant at 18, he's moved out, and this really does begin this long life of him having children and being a father and a husband. He's forced to marry this bitch, and when your spouse is saying things to you like, "I might stab you while you're sleeping," that's probably a nod that you should be thinking about leaving.
Yeah.
"I'll stab you in your sleep, and by the way, I'm pregnant with someone else's baby. Bye."
And yeah, just kidding. What was that?
Andy, we're happy that you were able to get away from her. And he found his calling, which was a carer, and it was really sweet to hear him talk about his connection with his patients. And, we'll get into later on how capitalism basically takes a lot away from him. But so later, the first wife comes back and, 10 years later comes back and says, "Actually, it was your son." I mean, can we assume that she'd been trying to get money out of someone else for a while? He wasn't doing it, and so it was
Working that out.
so she thought for a second, thought, "Wait a second, he kinda looks like Andy. Maybe it is
Did I?
I could probably get some money out of that guy." They did do a test, and it was his father, and, Andy is now on the hook for him, but more importantly, he's missed out on the first 10 years of his life, which just seems particularly cruel to do to someone. And then he has a second wife, and he has a load more kids with her. I don't did you count, like, 6 kids in total?
2, 3, 5, 6.
I think that's right, yeah.
But because he didn't have any kids with Michelle, or did he? Did he?
Shell, his last
His third
partner?
wife?
No. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think so,
Yeah,
no.
I counted 6 in.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down too. And then so it sounds like his fourth son is Joe, and that's with his second wife. Joe is like hitting his milestones, and then he turned 4, and all of a sudden he became really hard work. He was a rebel, very destructive. He was breaking everything. If you had on a chain or jewelry, he wanted it and took it from you. He's very destructive in school, throwing tables and chairs. And as Andy put it, he was my son and I loved him, but he was a monster. How difficult is that to admit to yourself about your child, or to even to face that that's what you've got? T, you're a parent. This is definitely where my disconnect comes in here. I can't imagine. I mean, to be quite frank, one of my OG reasons for not having kids is because coming from a Christian faith that I did not want another way to be judged, to be quite frank about it.
You mean as a parent?
To be judged as a parent and to be judged as a person based on what my children did, if they were a monster or if they were successful. I didn't want anyone else's successes or failures to be reflected on to me. I think it is deeply unfair to do to parents.
Well, good thing I love being judged. Well, I'm not sure if you know, I think Ellie knows. One of my sons is autistic. So a lot of this rang true to me. So my son is 5 years old. He's in a class that's inclusive. So he's in a mixed class with kids who are autistic and kids who aren't, neurotypical, untypical. And language is very important. But really, I'm really still learning it all. So I'm not like an expert. But something I learned was autistic folks prefer to be identified as autistic as opposed to saying something like they have autism or I have autism, as if saying it's like a disease. To refer someone as autistic is the preferred way.
Yeah, thanks, T. I found that out tonight myself. Really informative when thinking about identity, especially in the framework of restorative justice. Like that's
Mhm.
also particular in the way that we say people are not, which is kind of opposite. In restorative justice, you don't want to give identity to people as a victim or as a perpetrator, but you do the opposite and say they have been victimized or they have been harmed or they have done harm.
Yeah, I guess I just think I don't know what the rules are, but I think language is just important.
And you all were pretty grateful to get a diagnosis significantly more quickly than
Oh,
Andy
yeah.
and his family was.
Yeah, I don't know what year was this?
Yeah, we can figure out the math, but it's not that much different than where we are today.
Well,
He would have
if he
been,
was gonna be 20, if that was now, then
so he's born in 2005,
yeah.
and Rex was born in 2019, 2020. What?
What's it?
What the
Why can't
fuck? What's going on?
why can't I
You're
I'm so sleepy. Um, okay. So 2019. I got it. He was born in 2019, right? I got it.
pre-pandemic.
Yes, 2019 is correct. It's hard because there's a lot of numbers,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's 2019. So yeah, over a decade more. Yeah. Anyway, he was diagnosed at 3.
Which is, you could say, decidedly better than
Yeah.
what Andy's family had to go through trying to get a diagnosis for 6 years. And I'm sure that has something to do with resources or how speedily you get on top of it, or, I'm sure there's lots of different factors involved in that.
I mean, also, I'm just saying the class, like this inclusive class that he's in, is the first class in the area that is like this right now.
Oh,
I
wow.
think.
So you're
Something
like,
yeah, or it's really rare.
wow, that's really lucky that you live in a community that has something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think about how he described Joe? That he's funny and he has a great mind. He loves pugs.
I love that.
What about when he adds this detail that he loved red? It sent him running up a hill, but he loved it, so he let him have it. if a color red like makes your kid a nutball, do you let him have the color red?
I'm your
Serious parenting question. Oh, like he loved it, so he let him have it. Are you supposed to? Should you be letting him have red?
I took that all to heart actually because Rex also he was obsessed with the color yellow
Yeah.
for like a full year, and like we could not take away like the yellow blocks or whatever. And then he was obsessed with the color red for a year. Now it's green, but like do not take the green blocks away or it's kind of over. So yeah, we give him anything he wants that's green because it brings him joy.
And yes, that's important. And then even after they've gone through this fight of getting the diagnosis, they still have to do this additional fight of getting him into a different school.
Yeah.
So I'm sure when y'all discovered this class for Rex, it was quite a relief. It sounds like it was the same thing for Andy. They find the school, they go there, they interview. Joe trashes the place.
Yeah.
I'm imagining one of those like
Yeah.
2-ton conference tables that this kid's able to flip over, and they're leaving thinking
It's over.
It's
I mean,
kaput."
I I can't like I've had all those feelings too, like exactly like it's over. Like
Rejected.
they're gonna hate. Yeah, he can't play with them anymore. Because it happens all the time. Like
Yeah.
that's how it's gonna be. But then, yeah, when they're like, what they say is like, it's a table.
And that is such a great
It's so
way to parent anyway. Like,
yeah,
kids are gonna make mistakes, they're figuring it out, they're testing their boundaries, testing their limits, and if you can not react in total panic and anger, it's probably setting a lot better example than
yeah,
to show a strong reaction to something.
yeah. It gives you some perspective as a parent, and I think just as a person, and as a person, if you're gonna judge a parent or whatever. But, that's why I'm saying, like, language is really
Yeah.
important too, like, Rex has been yelling a lot lately, and I'm like, "Okay, stop yelling," you know, in my head. And I'm like, Can you can you stop yelling in my face?" Is what I'm, like, really thinking.
My favorite is when he grabs my face and turns into
Yeah.
me like, "I have something very important to tell you."
And then he just yells, and it's just like, "Okay, I'm patient," it's patience, right? So then apparently when, Gwen went to pick up Rex, his teacher came up to Gwen and was like, "Oh, Rex has been experimenting with his voice lately." And I was like and when she told me that, I was like, "Oh my god, I love that." Instead in my head, I'm thinking, "Can you stop yelling?" That's like my initial thought. And then their teachers, it's like
They reframe it.
they reframe it, and the thing is, that is exactly what he's
That's
doing.
exactly what he's doing. He's not trying to cause a rift or get under your skin.
Yeah,
He's heard his
literally.
voice, and now he's experimenting with the width and height and
Yeah,
depth of his voice. It's
yeah.
kind of beautiful, actually.
I know, and it made me feel crazy guilty and, that I'm even just the thought of me and it's like, so anyway, it just gives you it makes you to think a little bit
Yeah,
different. So that's what I'm saying, I'm still learning.
as am I. And, this was said in your opener, but, Andy deemed this the making of Joe. And I thought that was just so poetic.
Yeah.
This soft space for his autistic son to land where he has the support to become the man that he's going to become. That's really
Yeah.
comforting and beautiful to see to realize that you can quiet that part of your brain now, like your son is in hands that are gonna be really helpful and lovely in guiding him. That's gotta be such a huge relief.
instead of like stop, stop,
Yeah.
stop, 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 all that, like letting him explore, letting him experiment and be himself and grow and develop.
In a controlled space with
Yeah.
people that understand
Yeah.
who he is and where he's coming from and let him be him.
Yeah.
And Andy says it's the power of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
This school sees a kid that they can help, and there's something really beautiful about that for everyone. So Andy's talking about the toll that him and his partner are taking in raising one, a big family, but two, someone that is neurodivergent. And it just seemed like even though they found this safe place for Joe to land, it still kind of really took this toll on their relationship, unfortunately. And they were being really mean to each other. And Joe's partner found that he had been phoning sex chat lines, and she accused him of cheating. And T, I'm here to ask you today,
Mm-hmm.
is that cheating?
You know, I'm gonna say short answer, no.
I'm also a no, so that's not a very lively debate.
Okay,
Can one of us try to take the other side?
fine. Fine. I'll go. Which one?
Yes.
Yes, I'll go yes. That's cheating when you're calling the sex chat
Okay, why?
because you're having sex chat with someone else, not your wife.
Yeah, but your uglies aren't touching.
You don't have to have your uglies be touching for you to be cheating. You can have, you know, you can totally. First of all, you can have like an emotional relationship and not have your uglies be touching, and you can totally be cheating.
Okay, but I don't think any of us are calling this an emotional relationship.
I'm just saying when you're saying uglies touching, but I'm touching my ugly and you're touching your ugly, and we're talking about it.
Okay, no uglies have been touched in the making of this podcast episode. But no, I'm saying yes, no uglies touched. Also, it wasn't an emotional affair. So what was it? I mean, is flirting?
This is a little bit past flirting, isn't it?
I
Because
I assume on the sex chat line she's saying something like, "Oh, you have a big, long, strong cock and I want it inside me," or something
ew,
like that.
ew. First of all, ew. That's ew. Okay, sorry, ew. Second of all, flirting is like, ooh, look at you and your cute shoes or whatever. So I don't know how to do it, but it's not. It's not what you said. That's not flirting. That's
Okay, no lesbian has ever said, "Oh, look at your cute
I don't
shoes."
know how to. I don't know how to do it. I'm just saying what you said wasn't flirting. That was straight up effing practically.
It's just a means to an end, online sex things, just like a strip club, it's a means to an end. I'm gonna give you the attention so you can tug one out later. That's
No,
all.
it's not later. I'm doing it right now. No, I'm not doing it right now. I'm saying
Anyway, I don't wanna get fixated on this piece, but
you're fixating on it. I'm just saying you cheated.
and I'm saying he did not.
I agree.
So he moved out, but luckily he did because he met his third partner, Shell, who ended up being his soulmate. And she's brilliant with Joe, but Andy really has this turbulent relationship with Joe's mom, and he, in an effort to protect Joe from that turbulent relationship, he decides to have an estrangement from Joe for a while. What did you think about that, T?
Well, I think he wanted to protect Joe, and it seemed like it really dysregulated him whenever that would happen. And he didn't want to, he wanted to protect him from that just for a little bit. Holidays are coming. Let's just cool off a minute, take a break, come back the beginning of next year. Let's just start over, fresh start.
Yeah, because I mean, what Andy describes is it felt like it was really stressful for Joe. So he wanted to give him a break as much as it pained him. But then at the end of Christmas break, Andy starts to get word that something's happened. Joe hasn't made it to school. I mean, just imagine sitting and waiting to hear the final word on where your fucking son is. I mean, I was like, what the fuck? I just can't imagine having to sit tight and wait for someone to get back to me.
The whole day
Yeah, so much waiting.
from until 4?
Would you be able to do that?
No.
But then again, it's like, what
What are you
can
gonna
you
do?
do?
What are you gonna do?
How just absolutely maddening.
Like, what's going on? What's happening?
And they're not, I mean, we're talking about life and death here. We're not talking about how injured was he. Like, he knew something happened and then waited all day to find out that his son had been killed. You know, Joe was sitting in the back of the van to take him to school. They were on the motorway. It was probably
Standstill?
commuter traffic.
commuter
Yeah,
traffic.
standstill. And they are rear-ended by he called it, I feel like he called it an Arctic truck or something.
Fully loaded.
It's like probably a UK kind of lorry truck. It's probably big and heavy.
Yeah.
And it rear-ended him and killed him. And we don't really know more than that. And it took a really long time for Andy to find out everything that happened. And, you know, when Andy finds out, he sat in despair. He describes it as just tremendous grief and the pits of despair. But capitalism demands that he must go back to work. He must continue making money. You must continue making money no matter what, no matter how sad you are, you must continue making money. And because you took time to grieve, how dare you live in this world? We're going to punish you because you didn't make money for the overlords for some time. So we're going to punish you by reducing your pay and taking away your title because capitalism demands that you give us everything you have. And Andy's asking, is the driver okay?
Yeah.
Which is just, it really demonstrates how absolutely sweet Andy is. I mean, it's clear that he really is aware of power dynamics and is capable of having really extreme empathy for people, just probably based on his own experiences. He really does care about people. What did you think about him going to see his son in the morgue or at the Undertaker or wherever
Yeah.
he saw him?
Awful. He couldn't even, I mean, couldn't even be there for more than a few minutes. It's brutal. I mean, it was a terrible accident. You don't really want to see him like that. The last thing you see, bruised face and all the injuries. So,
I always think it's interesting when it's said like, "Oh, you don't want to see them like that." Again, not a parent. I feel like I'd have to have firsthand experience with the corpse to know that it was true.
yeah,
As painful as it would be, I feel like I'd have to have that tactile experience
just to make sure.
to be certain. If someone is just
There's denial. There's denial there. Yeah.
Yes, and I think if I don't have that experience when I get to that stage of denial and I'm deep in it and maybe it's too late because they've been buried or they've been cremated and I never had that chance, I think I would always regret it. I mean, when my dad passed, that's different, than losing a child, but when my dad passed, as upsetting it was to be in the room with his body, it also was extremely cathartic to be in there with them because we could with our own senses see that he had left this shell and that wherever he was now he was at peace, and we touched his body, we kissed his face. He was cold, he wasn't there, it wasn't there anymore, but we knew that that would be the last time. um Sorry to be upset, but you
You
know
don't have to
like
apologize.
I think it's so important to have that experience with someone that you've lost.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say, like, if you didn't see him, you'd always wonder if, the denial piece, like, is he actually out there? Was that him?
Did he
For
fake his
real.
own death?
No, not was he
Some
fake it,
family?
but, like, did they ID him right or something? You know,
Oh, yeah, if it was my
you'd have to
kid,
make sure.
I mean, how I hate to ask you to, but for you yourself, if
You'd wanna make sure.
you I mean, but well, let's hope we never have to find out.
Yeah.
So Andy talks about how there's a lot of hostility at the funeral.
Mm.
What do you think he meant by that?
Yeah, lots of hostility towards him, right? Towards Andy.
Why?
Well, well, I was were you thinking probably because, of that break that he took and wondering if because they w him and his ex weren't together anymore, that he wasn't seeing Joe as much, that there's some judgment towards him just being more absent.
I mean, that's pretty fucked to hold that hostility to someone that just lost their son.
Yeah,
But
I'd say so.
if she was kind of spreading that,
I would say it was probably because of her.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she does share ashes with Andy, and he says that he keeps him with him always.
Mhm.
Um, and his rep. Well, I didn't catch the acronym CFO, CLO, or something. I assume that was just sort of some liaison of the court or the police or something. Mark, who came to give him the news, and then asked him if he wanted to be
Matt?
Mark,
Matt?
if he wanted to be part of the restorative
It was
justice.
Matt.
I'm pretty sure it was Mark.
Well, it was probably Matt.
Mark.
Matt.
So it was one evening, about a month after Joe's funeral, Matt came to visit,
Definitely Matt.
and he asked me,
Mark.
It's him, that.
Matt.
Whatever, dude.
No, we can fucking settle this right now.
Where is it?
It's called the transcript, bitch.
Then do it.
I'm doing it.
Matt.
Mark.
Well, the transcript isn't out yet because the thing isn't out. Guess we'll find out, won't we?
I guess we will. So this guy offers restorative justice to Andy, and he's not ready. And then about 4 months later, he finds out that the driver who Andy had been concerned about, he was texting and driving and texting his parents, and then it sounds like he was also watching sports news and the hate. I mean, Andy went into just blind rage and hate for this person. Andy had formerly had a sympathy for this guy and was hoping that he was okay. Why do you think, T, that it was so much more devastating for Andy to find out that the driver had been on his phone, that he'd been a distracted driver texting on his phone? Why is that more worse than just another bullshit reason to be a bad driver?
Well, it's so easily could have been prevented. I mean, a mistake, like, sometimes you make little mistakes accidentally or human.
What is it about the driving and texting that is especially egregious, do you think?
Well, first of all, it's illegal. That's one thing. Second of all, I mean, to quote Andy, it's stupid
Yeah.
because it's not worth someone's life to text or watch sports news.
Word. Why is it more devastating than if the roads were wet?
Slick or yeah.
Or
Yeah.
he tailgated or
Well,
there are bad drivers and there are distracted drivers. It's like one seems more deliberate than the other. One seems more preventable than the other.
yeah.
And he was very angry and he wanted the driver to hurt as much as Joe had. Now, it sounds like in the UK, they have way more stringent laws around vehicular manslaughter than they do in the United States. Like, we don't treat driving crimes near as harsh as we should, I think.
Oh.
But they were giving him 8 years for vehicular manslaughter.
This would be 14 originally, right?
I mean, he wasn't. I mean, yeah, he was distracted, but it feels like a sentence they would give someone that had been drunk driving or something like that.
I mean, it went from 14 to 8 to 4, really.
But still, I'm surprised
Yeah.
he got real time at all.
Yeah.
So it comes a point where they're ready for restorative justice. It has been some time. And Andy meets him. You know, there's all of this stuff around these cases. And sometimes it's hard to tell who's providing the messaging, right? So, you know, Andy's wondering, why didn't he speak at the trial? Why couldn't he admit to what he was doing ahead of time and save us all a heap of trouble and time? But we have to remember, and this is something that Joanna talked about in her interview with Whit, is the parties that are part of the justice process aren't interested in getting to the truth and healing. They're interested in protecting their clients, right? So in that way, it's an impediment to the truth being revealed and healing to come faster. And so you make a lot of assumptions. Why isn't this person talking? Why isn't this person saying a thing? But they're being counseled by someone else to not say those things. So, you know, it was a big revelation for Andy to see how all of these parties at play were keeping real healing from occurring. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't the driver's fault. It was everyone else that was involved in the legal maneuverings.
Does the court system not go for truth?
I
Is that not like the main goal? It's that whole reasonable doubt thing, right?
I would say that there's a lot of legal maneuvering that, yeah, does keep the truth hidden for a long time to protect certain parties. I think at some level,
They hide the truth, maybe.
I mean, I don't want to go into this, but
Yeah.
you could argue that a lot of prosecutorial bad conduct is because they're interested more in winning. You could argue that there's misconduct on the defense side because they're just interested in protecting their client and hiding the truth.
It's like,
So-
don't tell me. Don't even tell me. They're like, don't even.
I don't wanna know.
I don't want to know. It's like, I don't even want to know if you did it or not. That kind of thing. Is that what it is?
So Andy wants to know why. Why were you texting and driving? And the driver said he'd never done it before. Bullshit.
Yeah.
And Andy called that bullshit. That's fine. He was still remorseful. He was big enough to let him see the sorry. So Andy felt like he needed answers and he got them. And his wife said that she saw the change in him immediately. It beckons back to Will, the other UK episode, where he said he felt immediate relief when he was able to confront his perpetrator. Amazing. Andy has this immense and true empathy. You know, he wanted to go back and see him again, and that's when he told him he forgave him. It helped Andy, but Andy says it helped the driver too, because you know, Andy's figuring he's going to suffer, and if he can take a bit off his shoulders of this suffering, of this guilt, of this regret, you know, so that he can really take care of his family, then he's willing to take that burden away from him, which is just so beautiful. And yes, he calls him out. He says, this guy ruined so much of his life and mine for just stupidity. And he doesn't think of him as evil. He just thinks of him as stupid.
Yeah.
Good on you, Andy. And the final message outside of RJ is an amazing thing and it should be used earlier in the process in the criminal justice system. His other big message, and this is the heart for me, don't use your fucking phone when you're driving. On my way over to T's tonight, I was fumbling around on my phone because one podcast episode ended and I wanted to start another one. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, Elly, you big fat hypocrite.
It's a 7-minute drive, Elly. Are you serious? You run a red light. It's over.
I heard Andy's voice in my head and I put my phone down. I quit fumbling with it because the last thing I was going to do was get in a car accident and they find my body and all my notes on this episode.
Jesus. Oh my God. How much would that?
don't use your
Oh
phone.
my God, don't text and drive. It's like right there. It's
I
like,
get it on my head still.
oh my God.
Thank you for listening. This has been an episode of Trauma Bonded. You can find our show or podcast or cat. Please rate and review us. Thanks to Andy for sharing their story and giving us the opportunity to talk about it. And thanks to the This Is Actually Happening team, including Whit, Missildine, and Andrew Waits, and the maker of our music and website, Nathaniel Trimboli. And thanks to Cathy Sites for editing this episode, and to Katie Capel for building those blasted Instagram posts. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. You can contact us at Gmail and find us on Instagram. Please go to the show notes for these exact addresses. But this is really what I wanted to say. We are trauma bonded to the story, to the storyteller, to the listeners, and to each other. Thanks for spending time with us today. I love you, T.
Love you, Elly. Good job. Hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Trauma Bonded.